and welcome to Heart Farms. This is my humble home. I apologize for the mess. We've been in a massive construction phase since 2010 when we bought the property. And I want to caution you if you've never visited us before, because we aren't a city park. We aren't a sterile environment. We aren't that picture that you see on the back of a cereal box with the perfect red barn and the green pasture. This is a working farm. I teach everything that we do on site, including harvesting of the animals. So if you pop by unannounced, I can't guarantee that you're not going to see animal harvesting or poop or flies or dirt or mud or all the other things that are normal with a working farm. So if those things bother you, you're going to either want to skip us as a visit, or you're going to want to schedule something in advance to make sure that we don't shock you. Otherwise, if what you're looking for is a real farm, a homesteading area, and to learn about where your food really comes from and sustainable, humane ways to harvest and live, then come on by. We welcome you. We'd love to have you. See, when we bought the property, it had been abandoned for 7 years. It was just the house, the pump house, and that shed down there. Everything that you see was 15 feet tall with blackberries and poison oak. Believe it or not, now you can see we're pretty thickly wooded. If you can picture an additional 250 trees, that's what we took out our first year. And once the trees were on the ground, we didn't actually know what to do with them, and I don't build that many bonfires, so we decided that we'd like some storage space, and we built this log cabin over here to store. And then we built the chicken coop, which you see up on the hill with the mural on it, and then the rabbitry with the green doors, the tool shed, and then we got better at milling and we built the extension over here. Our goal has always been to make use of everything that we have available, that we don't have any waste. The farm didn't start as a business idea. It started as a reaction, a circle the wagons technique, to something that happened about 5 years ago. See, my wife started working in the civilian sector. She got out of the military, used to do medevac for Afghanistan, and came home one day from the ER, and she just had a 9-year-old girl that was pregnant. And that event really shook us up. And obviously we could talk for hours about morals and values and supervision and the system and all the things that should have been in place and why that never should have happened, but the reality is that it did. And what we talked about was physiologically, how's that possible? Right? What have we done to our bodies where even if everything goes wrong, there's no supervision, no morals, no values, what have we done to our bodies where it's possible that a 9-year-old gets pregnant? And we started doing our research, and it only took 6 months, and we were so appalled at the level of toxicity in our foods that we said, we're done. And we bought this farm specifically to get the chemicals out of our family's diet. And it was very effective. It took us only about 12 months to get self-sufficient. But in that process, people would come to us and say, well, can I get some of this? And can I get some of this? And we've really been wanting this. And we want farm fresh eggs. And we want raw milk. And so we started to expand almost as soon as we started, because there was a very obvious need in the community. Now, I had no idea how significant that need was. See, we decided to eat 100% organic, 100% of the time, no exceptions. And I watched our food bill go from $400 a month to over $1,200 a month overnight. And we were very blessed to have the ability to make some corrections, some course corrections, and make that happen. That was possible for us. But I looked at my wife and we said, people can't do this. 95% of our country, I don't care how bad they want to, $1,200 a month is not a food bill, that's a mortgage payment. And so we said, we got to create a different system. And we started off with a sliding scale, and that was just a train wreck. It was too difficult to track. And then I had an individual come to me and say, I have no money, but I have to get the chemicals out of the meat for my family. And everybody has their own crusade. Some people want chemical-free vegetables that was, where no chemical fertilizers were used. Some people want raw milk to treat, the medical conditions that they have. And some people want to get the hormones and chemicals out of their meat. This gentleman was really focused on the meat aspect, and he literally had no money. And I said, well, what do you think you could offer? And he says, well, I'm skilled. I've been laid off. I don't have any money, but I've got time. And we created a work trade. Actually, he created it. I did very, very little, just stepped out of his way. He built us a set of stairs. He helped build a barn extension. He helped build the shop. And when it was all said and done, it was the most pure transaction I've ever experienced, because he gave freely of something he had in excess, which was time and skill. And we gave something we had in excess. And we both, I believe, came out way ahead. And it just felt incredible. It was therapeutic for him to come out and work on the farm and put energy into a cause that was good. And it felt so wonderful for us to be able to bless him with something that he couldn't afford to buy and provide for his family. And that was the beginning of really heart-to-heart farms, was that individual, and I'm thankful for him to this day. So this year, God willing, we will provide for the community about 1,500 rabbits, about 1,200 egg-laying chickens, about 1,000 meat chickens, 300 turkeys, 250 ducks, just under 200 pigs, 100 geese, 60 full-size cows, 50 sheep, 40 goats, raw milk, thousands and thousands of farm fresh pasture, eggs. And our goal is to give 50% of it away. We've got a big CSA, and we help people get vegetables, and they can come harvest themselves. We've got community gardens. We're just putting in this incredible aquaponic system, so we should be able to harvest fresh tilapia and catfish and trout, so people can get that experience, and kids can come do a U-fish little trout pond. And our goal is to create not just a farm, but a community where everybody can have a say in the foods that they eat, where everybody can see firsthand how the animals are treated and how they're raised, and play a part in that if they want to. So if you guys will follow me, I'll take you on down, show you the children's garden and the rest of the farm. So this is our children's garden and classroom, where we teach classes on food preservation, seed saving, cheese making, dehydrating, pressure canning, all sorts of classes on art, where we do birthday parties. And then the kids camp, of course, is in charge of the children's garden, where they not only plant but harvest. They teach all sorts of incredible subjects. We've got an amazing teacher on staff, and she uses the world around to teach arithmetic, reading, and writing, so the kids get passionate about it and see the reason why they're learning. If you look closely, you can see artwork in the background, woodworking, chainsaw carving, signs, spray paint artists. If you look up on the hill, you can see the chicken coop has a giant mural on the outside, and one of our goals is to work with local artists and vendors, artisans, to help them get their work out to the community. So we'll provide a lot of times raw material or area to work or tools, and then help partner with them to create a business model so that they can have a sustainable system and work in their areas of passion while providing income for their family. Up on the hill you see a wallapini. What we do is we take concepts, permaculture concepts especially, and use them here so that people can come see how they work, test different methods of implementation, and then learn from us as far as what's worked and what's not. A wallapini, by the way, is a greenhouse that's sunken under the ground. So as the sun heats it during the day, the heat is transferred into the clay of the walls, so it moderates the temperature. And then as the temperature drops in the evening, the warmth in the clay returns back to the greenhouse, so it creates a system where you can literally grow almost all year round. You can also see our duck sanctuary, where the ducks get to live in a natural environment, and we create a pond that we can drain from the bottom, and using a swale system we can actually clean the pond, refill it with rainwater, and irrigate the entire hillside all at the same time with almost no effort at all. So now if you'll follow me, I'll show you the cows. And these are my babies, Hercules, Comet, and Blitz. We rescue about 300 calves a year. And when I say rescue, people always ask me, well, aren't you a farm? Don't you eat them? And the situation with these baby cows, see, we as a nation love ice cream and cheese. And so we've bred the Jersey cow because its milk has a very, very, very high cream content. But in doing so, we have come up with a cow that doesn't grow fast enough for the commercial beef industry. So the Holstein bull calves and the brown Swiss bull calves get purchased, by the commercial beef industry. And the Jerseys, nobody really wants them. And so we found that a lot of the dairies were literally having to incinerate them or send them to the auction yards. And we learned that about 3 years ago, and I was so disgusted at the process. Not that we would kill and eat something, but that we would create a life because we want a byproduct and then literally waste every piece of that life. In fact, burn fossil fuels to get rid of it. They didn't even compost it. So we created a proposal, and one of the local dairies here was just incredible. They loved that we wanted to rescue these guys. They said, we hate the system, we hate that we have to do this. And part of the problem is the farmer is stuck between the bank, which is generally very difficult to deal with and robbing them blind, and a giant commercial company that buys their products at pennies on the dollar. So we built a relationship with this dairy where we pick them up at 1 day old, every single bull calf that's born on the property, and we bring them home and we bottle raise them. And it's tough. I mean, we spend about $1,000 a month just on milk to keep these guys alive. And it's also difficult because bottle calves have a very high mortality rate. The acceptable loss rate in the industry is between 20 and 35%, which is challenging. And ours the same year, or our first year was right about that. It was about 35%. But we focused on it for the last 3 years, and our rate right now is at about 8.5%, which is way better than 35, but it still means 1 out of 10 just doesn't make it. But what we choose to do, as opposed to let it die, I can identify which one isn't going to make it generally in the first 24 hours, and we harvest that calf and we give it away to a family in need, or make sure that it doesn't go to waste, because we believe that the biggest respect you can give any living thing is to make sure that its life wasn't in vain, that it passes painlessly and quickly and doesn't have to suffer in the process, which is, a big piece of what we stand for, making sure that everything goes to good use. So what we want to make sure is that these guys have a wonderful quality of life. So we raise these guys as if they were our pets, because really they are. They all have names, personalities. I know the backstory on every single one. And we just want to make sure that they're incredibly happy and treated very well while they're here on this earth. And then when it is time for them to move on, that happens painlessly and quickly and without suffering. So if you'll follow me up here, I'll show you where we raise the rabbits and the chickens. Now, almost all of our animals free range. All of our egg chickens are completely cage free, but we also build and sell chicken tractors. And we find that for people that are in the city or people with limited space, it's a wonderful way to minimize, if not eliminate, the use of commercial feeds and have an environment and an enclosed, safe environment for their animals to be raised. The rabbits, for example, we've reduced their feed consumption by over 80% just by putting them out on pasture. And according to studies, the vitamin A and D is increased substantially when they can free range in the sunlight. Not only that, but they're happier, which ultimately makes us happier. We're also creating a food forest concept behind me. You can probably see a few raised beds, and they're hard to tell because the grass is kind of high right now, but we've planted over 150 different medicinal varieties on the hill. We've got 9 different varieties of currant, we've got ginkgo, we've got goji, we've got silverberry, we've got seaberry, we've got aronia, autumn olive, gooseberry, dewberry, all these wonderful varieties, because what we've found is that if your body has the nutrition that it needs to stay healthy, illness is almost non-existent. I literally haven't had the sniffles since the day I met my wife, except for one Christmas I decided to get off the diet, and my body made me pay for it. But other than that, when I eat right, I feel great. So if you'll follow me to the pigs, we're almost done. We raised 3 different bloodlines of pigs. We've got a Duroc, Berkshire, Hampshire, Yorkshire cross with a Tamworth boar, and that creates one of the most unbelievable meat and bacon pigs that you can imagine. We just sent our full-size boar to the shop, and at 26 months he was well over 800 pounds. Then we've got American guinea hogs, which is a wonderful homestead pig, or even a first pig for people that have never done it and are a little bit nervous. They top out at about the size of a large dog, although they weigh about 300 pounds, and so much easier to manage, and they're incredibly efficient on food. Believe it or not, they survive and gain weight on pasture alone. So if you've got space for them, you actually don't have a feed requirement at all, which is really wonderful when it comes to sustainability. And then we raise these little teeny city pigs. And these are meat breeds. We've bred down a guinea hog and crossed it with a kune to get a pig that's filled out, unlike a potbelly, but meets the exemption requirements for every county that I know of in the state of Oregon, so that people in the city can begin to get started when it comes to homesteading. So often people will buy a little sow like this and make it their pet, and then when she comes into heat, bring it back here and have her bred to one of our full-size or larger boars, so we'll breed her up. Then they'll throw a litter of piglets and they get to experience that at home, and we walk them through the entire process. Then when the piglets are weaned, they bring her back here and have her bred again. And when that second litter is born, the first litter is ready to go to the shop. So you end up having a pet, which is absolutely incredible, and one of the most fun, satisfying relationships that I've ever had as a farmer is between that of me and my pig. But they also get to be provided with, between 1,000 and 2,000 pounds of meat per year, which can make a big difference for a lot of families. And it's a lot of fun. Now up at the top of the hill, you can see that we've got our fruit orchard. We cleared the top 3.5 acres and planted a 250 tree fruit orchard with 8 or 9 different varieties of apple, pear, Asian pear, peach, plum, nectarine, persimmons, cherry, pawpaw, mulberry, just about everything that you can imagine, as well as a very large vegetable garden. And that's where we did most of our growing our first year, although we've expanded into the woods since then. We've also put in place, just outside of the fruit orchard, hugelkultur beds, which are amazing. If you've never heard of them, Google them. Absolutely incredible. But again, our goal is just to teach, to invite people over here to see what real farming is like. And it's not clean, it's not pretty, it stinks, it's messy. We've got tools everywhere. There are farm hazards. I mean, it's not the place that you want to let your 2-year-old run loose, but it's a place where you can come and see what farming is really like. You can love all over the animals in their natural environments. And you can learn all about farming and homesteading from people that are doing it and people that care. So for those of you guys who haven't been out here yet, this is my better half, Elizabeth, and that's Curry, and this is Wilma. And we'd all like to say thank you for supporting us. Thank you for coming by, and if you haven't come by yet, we'd love to see you whenever you get a chance. I've got to get to feeding these guys, obviously, and I'm sure you've got to get going too. You guys have a wonderful day.